Good morning and welcome to the beautiful Frensham little pond run by Farnham Angling Society. It's about 5:30 in the morning and I'm sitting on the outlet next to the wall, the kind of dam end of the lake, the deepest end of the lake, and as you can see normally the water level's up here, so it's really low. But I've been given a tip off from a couple of my good friends that this lake is fishing really well this year, and I've come down. I'm going to fish the float and sweet corn for tench this morning. Now some of the guys have been coming down here on the feeder and catching, you know, like a dozen plus tench. They're not as big as the Great Pond, the lake that as you would know I fish a lot, but they're around, I don't know, average size is about 4.5 pound, but we've had them up to nearly 7 pound actually. There's a few carp in here. I'm not too sure what the stocks are anymore, but I've not actually fished this much in my whole angling career because I love the Great Pond. To me it's just, you know, both lakes are beautiful, but Frensham Great Pond just like edges it for me, and because of the size of the fish. This is a lot more public. I'm fishing off, I've set up off the dam here. There are enclosed swims all the way around the lake. I'm guessing there's about 16, 17 swims that you can get in, lock the gate behind you so you don't get any of the kind of dogs running in your swim. There, you know, but where I'm fishing here, we're allowed to fish off here. We can fish any of the banks apart from the nature reserves. And I've set up here because it's just a beautiful backdrop for me to be doing some filming. Closest to the car park as well. I can just park the car up the back, walk through, and I'm right here. It's going to get a little bit, you know, busy later on with people walking around because it's very popular with the public. But I'm only going to fish till probably 10 o'clock. I'll be gone by 10. First job this morning was simply I've just got some ground bait mixed up, got it out there. I've shotted the float and then just plumbed up by putting a big shot on the hook. Took a bit of time doing that. There are a few tench bubbling, not on the bait at the moment, but hopefully in a few minutes there will be. Just plumbed up, just actually balled in 3 or 4 balls of ground bait with a little bit of hemp and corn. The hemp is more, I use the water when I boil my hemp. I use the water to mix my ground bait because I don't want to use too much hemp. There's a few little bits of hemp in there, but be a bit careful when you're using hemp because the tench can get preoccupied on that. So yeah, conditions are great, overcast, there's no wind. What wind there is going to be from the north. Atmospheric's not as good as the last few days. It's about 1008. It was a lot lower than that, and so I can't complain at the conditions. I've got a sleeper rod just in case the wind gets up or the fishing on the float gets tough, but I'm going to spend at least 90 minutes on the float working that quite hard and hopefully, you know, pick up 2 or 3 tench for you. Let's just run through bait. My first job when I got here was just mix up some ground bait. I'm using the Dynamite Swim Stim feeder formula. It's just a lot of ground koi pellets there, and I mixed that up this morning with the water from the hemp that I boiled up. It's got all that oil and, you know, natural goodness in there, and a little bit of the lake water as well. Mixed it up, gave it a bit of time just to, you know, draw in all the moisture, and I've just balled it up, put a bit of sweet corn in, a little bit of hemp, and then balled about 4 balls out there, and I'm fishing just where I can ball in and catapult a little bit of corn over. You might be asking why am I not using maggot or worm, let's say, but I came down for a little recce a couple of weeks ago actually, and maggot and worm is a non-starter. Basically just down to the small fish, the small rudd. It is just teeming with tiny little ruds. So I did come down, I did catch a couple of tench, which you'll see a little bit of footage on this video from, but then the wind got up and it was blowing a hoolie, and I didn't bring a sleeper rod with me. I am going to put a sleeper rod out a little bit earlier than what I said, just because why not, I'm here. But my aim is to catch a few on the float, which I did the other day. I did bring a customer down as well, and that day he had 11 tench on the feeders, a little bit of kind of like hard pellet, a bit of corn, and the other thing was most of them came on these little Dynamite 7mm wowsers. I don't know what flavour they are, but they're probably pineapple or ESF1. Just hair rigging those, very similar to what we do at Frensham Great Pond. So getting a few little indications on the float out there, little lift, that's probably rudd. No bubbling at all, and I know the fish here do bubble over the ground bait. So as I said, it's early days, a few indications out there. Hopefully that float will sail away. But what you will find with tench is a lot of the bites aren't just gone. You expect, you know, a £4 tench, £4 plus tench to give you a positive bite, but they don't. They can be really small dips and lifts, and sometimes you just have to strike at everything. Especially if you're on, you know, you can get away with maggot, a little bit of bubbling out there now. So, you know, it might take a little bit of time to get a few fish in on that baited area, but I'm hopeful that a tench or two will come along. But there you have it. First one on the float. It's a little one actually, probably about around £3, but they certainly go on the float, and it's certainly a really enjoyable way to catch them. I promised myself to float fish a little bit more this year. Like I said, it's 8 o'clock. I've been fishing at, you know, 2 hours now. Bit of bubbling out on the float, but very few bites. The float is up and down. It's really difficult making out what is a bite from a tench. Certainly had 2 or 3, 4 really good bites. But as I said, they're not always really positive bites off tench. And sometimes, especially when you cast out and the bait's going through the water, you get the rudd attack in it, so you've got to ignore those. The bubbling's gone off. I put another 4 balls of ground bait out there, and hopefully switch them on again. I do know that they say you can catch the tench all day here, whereas at Frensham Great Pond, come sort of midday, 2 o'clock they've completely shut up for the day. Sleeper rod's out, hasn't done anything, and I get the impression that it just isn't fishing today. We've got a horrible northwest wind, and I know Frensham Great Pond hates that wind, the north wind, and maybe its smaller sister is exactly the same, because this is certainly not fishing. There's very few fish rolling, as I said, a bit of bubbling about, but I know this place, and you know, I fished it a couple of times now, and quite a few of my friends fish it, and they say, you know, a dozen tenches is quite easy out here. But today I've tried a few things on the sleeper rod and it's just not going, so it may pick up, but at the moment the signs are not good. Camera down really to sort of head height, just to give you an idea of how fantastic this place is. And Frensham Great Pond, wading out, standing out in the lake. The clouds are just breaking up now. There's a bit of warmth from that sun on my shoulders perfectly honest, it feels quite autumnal this morning with that north wind, quite fresh. The clouds are breaking up now, blue sky. Fishing might not be fantastic, but there's not many places you can come and do this. It really kind of takes fishing to a different level than sitting there on the swims commercials that's too close to each other. Here you can just come, get away from it, be at one with with fishing. Hardly see another angler on the lake, and it isn't all about catching loads and loads of fish or big fish. It's just a matter of coming out and being part of this fantastic landscape. At long last I'm into a second tench on the float. Two shifts in it when you hook them. Come back. It was a better fish than the first one. Like I said, it's just after 8 now. It went really quiet, the bubbling stopped. So it was almost all or nothing. I put another 4-5 balls of ground bait in and stopped striking at little knocks because I think they were just rud, and that time the float just went. It was getting difficult to see because of the ripple on the water out there. Quite a bit of silkweed about. You can see on the float coming up, there's silkweed on here. I wish I could trust this reel. I just got to. They really do hang on here. Absolutely fantastic way of fishing and catching them. As I said, I think this is a really tough day because I was expecting a lot more action than what I've got, but I'd rather have 2 on the float than 2 on the actual sleeper feeder rod. In fact, I might just bring that sleeper rod in and concentrate more on the float, because I've always felt having a sleeper rod out, you just don't fish as effectively and as well. Oh, that one swam straight into the net, and that's a better fish. Tench number 2. Barbless 14 there. That's good. That's quite a good tench for Frensham little, I would say. So there we go. Tench number 2 on the float. Much bigger fish, that one. Probably getting on for probably £5. A few split fins there. Again, unlike the Frensham fish, the Frensham great pond fish that seem to be really mint. They look a bit old, but cracking fish from Frensham Little Pond on the float. Okay, let's just quickly run through the tackle I'm using. I've got the Carbon Active Sentient 13-foot super float rod. Absolutely lovely piece of kit these are. I think you can still buy the Carbon Active, but these are really old rods, and the blanks are absolutely so lovely. 13-foot rod, it just picks up that line really quickly. Got a Diara reel here, not the best I must admit, loaded with low diameter 6-pound Black Magic line. Nice and low die means when I'm casting it just comes off, and you can cast that much further, sink your line. And 6-pound liner handle most of the tench I'm hooking in this lake. There's no snag, so it just seems about right. Then just running down to the floats. Been using these since I was a youngster when they first come out, and they must have been out all of about 40 years now. and this is just one of the Drennan crystal loaded waggler. It's a 3.5 gram, all the weight in the base, and then all I'm doing is locking the float with 2 shot there. All the weight around the float means I can just cast like a dart really easily. Quite a long float. It just, you know, gives you a bit of stability on some of these big lakes when it's quite windy, but they are been around for years, and they are, you know, as good a float as I've ever used. Coming down here, I've just got my hook link. This is a 514. I did go down to a 412 earlier. I thought, unfortunately, when I struck, I bumped a fish, or I broke off, the hook link went, so I've gone back up to a 514, slightly less than the main line, and I've got 2 loops there, loop to loop, overhand knots with a figure of 8 in there. I'm going to do a video showing you the figure of 8, because although most people know what I mean by that, if you don't, you really need to. And then I've just got a number 6, number 8 shot down the line, and then I did start off using a size 14 Drennan sweet corn barbless, you know, a gold hook. Don't even know if you can get these anymore, but they're barbless, so obviously keeping with the rules. 14 seemed about right, but after having a lot of bubbling out there, I thought, you know, is that hook working against me being golden colour? And sometimes you just have to change things just for confidence, and I went down to a Browning Beast barbless size 16, a darker hook, smaller hook, and since going on that, I've lost a fish, unfortunately, from a hook pull, and I did have that break off. But we're coming towards the end of the session, but I just felt that if I'd started off on this size 16 Beast instead of the 14 sweet corn hook, I would have done a little bit better. And obviously the 514, you know, the 412 seemed to get me bites, but you just got to get everything really balanced. There's fish still bubbling out there, so I've got about 10 or 15-20 minutes of fishing. Sorry for any of the noise around, but as I said, with Frensham Little Pond, it's very public. We've got a lady in the cafe that's been talking to her friend Anna for about 45 minutes, and I've been biting my lip not to shout over to her, to, you know, to be a bit quieter, because I don't want to know her life story, but I do now. And then, as you can see, there's a family behind me with the youngsters swimming about. We're not swimming, paddling, which is they're allowed to do, but that is what you've got to put up with at Frensham Little Pond. It is very public, lots of dogs going in the water, a lot of barking, a lot of runners, a lot of cyclists, but it's just part of that, and that's why I kind of prefer Frensham Great Pond. But yeah, I'm going to have another 20 minutes and see if I can get another fish, which would be nice. But I've taken the sleeper rod out. That wasn't doing anything, to be perfectly honest. It was just getting in the way and kind of a distraction I could do without when I'm float fishing. Well, that's it. That's the end of an enjoyable but quite a frustrating few hours down here at the little pond. Only had the 2 tench, but a great, fantastic way of catching them. And when you hook them here in this shallow water, they just rip off. You've got to make sure you've got that clutch set. Quite noisy down here at the moment with lots and lots of the public. You know, it's the school holiday, so what it's going to be like in a couple of hours, I do not know. Thought I was getting to grips with it towards the end. I had changed a few things, went down the size of the hook, went to a darker hook. Shotted that float right down with a number 9 stop, and yeah, as I said, you know, I bumped 1 and lost 2 from hook pulls just from those smaller hooks. So I think I need to come back and do another video soon, and sort of, because I think, you know, you get your tactics right, maybe hook a pellet or something like that. You get your tactics right, and you could have an absolutely fantastic day down here. As I said, just a 2 tench, but I should have had probably 4, 5, maybe 6 tench this morning. Missed a few bites as well. The rud are a real pain at the moment now, even on sweet corn. The float is just up and down all over the place. So I think it's time to call it a day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, please do, because it keeps the videos coming. Make a few comments and give it the thumbs up if you like. So until next time, tight lines.